Motorsport TV Live, brought to you by Motorsport Tickets, the dedicated motorsport experiences provider.
Hello and welcome to Motorsport TV Live. I'm Juliana Chiovitti, and today we're looking back at some of the biggest moments from the 2021 Super GT season, and our very own Jamie Klein, Global News Editor for Motorsport.com, will join the conversation. Keep watching. Jamie, welcome back. How are you? Thank you for joining us.
Yes, thanks for having me. I'm well, thank you. Back in the UK after a busy season in Japan, and yeah, quite a lot to digest, especially from Super GT. It was another crazy season.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, so we're going to focus on GT 500 because there was so much excitement, but there's actually two categories. You have your GT 500 and your GT 300. So let's recap GT 300 because there's actually two sets of cars in that category.
Yeah, that's right. It's kind of complex to explain, but I'll try and give you the easy version. So there's the FIA GT3 cars, which are the cars that race all around the world in various GT3 championships like IMSA and GT World Challenge. And then there are these GT300 rules cars that which are built to the Super GT's own rule book. And these are much lighter and they tend to have less power. So it produces this dynamic where the GT3 cars tend to be stronger in a straight line, and the GT300 cars tend to be faster in the corners. But there's a very delicate balancing act that the rule makers have to do to keep the racing competitive. And in the last few seasons, we've seen the GT3 cars, which the majority of the field are GT3 cars. This year it was, I think, 22 cars out of 29 were GT3 cars. I mean, they're cars you can just buy off the shelf, so it's the easy solution for most teams. And in most cases in recent seasons, those cars have been the dominant cars. However, this season in particular, we've really seen a resurgence of the homegrown GT300 cars, and that's mostly down to two new models that have come out recently. One is the Supra, the new Toyota GR Supra, and the other is the new Subaru BRZ. And this season, it was the Subaru BRZ that came out on top. And really the key to their championship win was their qualifying performance. They were on pole 4 times out of 8, started on the front row 6 times out of 8, and even though they only took 1 race win in the end, that consistency in qualifying really gave them the edge that they needed to come out with their first ever championship win in GT300 actually. And we did go into the final race with some GT3 cars still able to win the championship. The main one was the Kondo Racing Nissan GTR, which won the title last year, but in the end, the Subaru was just too quick. And I think if you look at the balance of power this season, 6 wins out of 8 were taken by GT300 rules cars. So you would say, based on that really the rules probably were slightly in favour of that side this year. And I think the rule makers will have some thinking to do over the winter to how to try and make it more even again in the future.
Yeah, looking back at some of the highlights from Motorsport TV, it doesn't even look like they're even close. Is that right?
The GT300 cars, you can tell they're much smaller. They're much lower center of gravity, and also the teams can modify them and improve them throughout the course of the season. The GT3 cars are completely fixed. Once the team, takes delivery of their GT3 car, there's not really too much they can do with it. But the GT300 cars, because they're the team's own kind of creation, they can do much more to them. And yeah, you do see this dynamic where on certain tracks, especially the sort of more technical tracks, which most of the tracks in Japan are like that, where you want the handling is more important than the sheer straight line speed. Definitely the GT300 cars have an advantage, and I think that's something that a number of drivers in GT3 cars this year noted. One of the more vocal critics was João Paulo de Oliveira, one of the Kondo Racing drivers, and he pointed out that the Subaru's balance of performance didn't change all season, even when it was clear that they had the strongest car, at least in qualifying. So he was a little bit unhappy that that was not addressed, because if you look at the other cars, they get adjusted throughout the season depending on whether they're deemed to be at too much an advantage or too much of a disadvantage. So it's a really hard job for the organizers to try and make everybody happy. Perhaps it's impossible to make everyone happy because there's so many different types of car, but certainly this season it seemed a little more controversial than in other seasons, I would say.
Yeah, hopefully the series can do something about the BOP, the balance of performance.
Yeah, absolutely. It would be a big job to find a way forward that will enable everyone to have a fair chance. But of course, that's what we want to see as racing fans, and of course, the teams and drivers themselves want everyone to have an even chance as well. So yeah, fingers crossed they can find something.
Excellent. GT500, exciting to watch on Motorsport TV. I'm confident it's even more exciting to see in person. There's a lot of driver movement. Take us through the season.
Yeah, the GT500 cars really are something quite special to watch. They've got so much speed, and the grip from the tires is amazing. And we always see fantastic racing as well with these cars. In terms of the driver movements, I think we had a couple of rookies stepping up or entering the championship for the first time. We had Toshiki Oyu joining Mugen, the Honda team. We had Nobuharu Matsushita joining the Impul Nissan team. And we also had Kenta Yamashita returning to Super GT after a year away. And actually, it was Yamashita who really was the star of the show in the opening round, Okayama, where Toyota cars locked out the top 4 positions, and it really looked like the Toyota teams were in a really strong position this season. Remember last season, they were very, very close to winning the championship, but just lost out because Ryo Hidekawa ran out of fuel on the final lap of the final race, within sight of the checkered flag, literally. So this seemed to be the start of the Toyota's revenge at Okayama, with a very strong start to the season. But once we got to round 3 at Motegi, it was clear that the Toyotas were kind of struggling, and Honda really came into the ascendancy. We had this dominant victory from Naoki Yamamoto and Tadasuke Makino in the Kunimitsu Honda, and that really set them up for a great season. They were always, even though they had the success ballast from that point onwards, they always found a way to come through the field using great strategies and just fantastic driving from the 2 drivers as well. Yamamoto in particular, with some real standout drives as well to just steadily extend that championship lead. And that's the situation we had sort of going into the final part of the season. We had Hondas 1, 2, and 3 in the standings. We had 2 Toyotas just about clinging on, but looking like very outside bets, just because Toyota had a number of issues. There was engine problems at Sugo. Only 2 of the 6 Toyotas finished that race. That also led to engine penalties at the following race at Autopolis. And it just seemed like Toyota was in a little bit of disarray at that point. And I don't think anyone would have really predicted that Toyota could salvage the situation from there. And just a quick word for Nissan as well, because even though they weren't really in the championship fight, we did see an improved Nissan this year. We had the podium lockout at Suzuka with the Nismo car of Matsuda and Quintarelli winning that one. And then we also saw Impul, Hiromine and Matsushita take that team's first win in 5 years. And in fact, Impul did go into the final race again with a very outside hope of winning the championship, but it really did look like Honda was in the driving seat with its 3 cars sitting pretty at the top of the standings.
Yeah, but didn't Toyota end up winning the championship?
That's right.
Shock, big shock right there. So yeah. Yamamoto was actually leading the championship heading into that final round. and then crashes just laps from the ending. What was that like? How did that look? What happened?
Yeah, it was a real heartbreaker. It was not Yamamoto's fault at all. Just to recap what happened, I think we do have a clip of this on Motorsport TV as well. But actually, it was one of the GT300 cars having its own battle. And the irony is that it was a Honda. It was Ren Sato, who's a Honda junior driver, was at the wheel of the GT300 Honda. And at turn one, he just got his braking wrong. He just braked way too late, dived to the insides to try and avoid hitting anybody. But in the process, he ended up hitting Yamamoto's car, and the damage then dealt to Yamamoto's car was basically not quite terminal, but it was enough to send him into the pits and basically end his championship hopes. And it was a real such a dramatic way to end the championship. And obviously the Honda camp, the mood in the Honda camp after that, because a Honda driver had basically cost Honda the championship, it was absolutely terrible for them. Just the worst possible thing that could happen. It was and especially for Sato, this young guy who's a Honda junior driver and obviously hopes to be part of the GT500 squad in the future. It's hard to think of anything worse he could have done for his future career prospects than drive into the driver that was on the cusp of winning the championship for the third time. So that was just such a huge moment of drama. It was, again, the second season in a row we've had this amazing, just as you think it's all done and dusted, just something, this unexpected drama happens. And it's one of the reasons we all love Super GT, and you can never be sure of the outcome until the very end. So that opened the door for the number 36 Tom's crew, Yuki Sekiguchi and Sho Tsuboi, who came in, I think, 16 points shy of Yamamoto. So they needed a win, and they needed Yamamoto to basically not score. And they got the win. And after the crash involving Yamamoto, they also got the other part of the bargain that they needed for him to not score. And they managed to steal the championship away for Toyota, which, again, as I said a moment ago, it's an outcome that you just would not have imagined. Just even at the start of that weekend or the previous race, it was a real shock turnaround. I think that even the drivers themselves, once they won the race, they just weren't quite hadn't really sunk in what they'd done, because I think they went into that race thinking they had basically no chance. And that's certainly how I think everyone on the outside viewed it. And yet we had this last minute shock twist, which will be probably the defining memory of the 2021 season.
Yeah, very dramatic to watch, of course. As we head into 2022, you already said Nissan has the new car. Is it still favored with Honda, with Toyota right there, or now is Nissan part of that conversation?
That's a very good question. We saw Nissan unveil the new Z GT500 or Z for our American viewers. That was unveiled early this month at Fuji Speedway, and of course Nissan is hoping that this will revive their fortunes, because they've just struggled with the GTR. It was kind of an aging design. It's been in service since 2008 in various guises, and obviously having a new car and being able to reset especially on the aerodynamics front is a very important thing for them. But that said, Honda has also got a slightly revised car based on the Type S version of the Honda NSX. And because the aerodynamic rules are being unfrozen for next season, Toyota can also make changes to the Supra, even though the model won't change. They have also said that they could try and adopt a different philosophy with that, with perhaps more emphasis on downforce and less on straight line speed. So I think at this stage it's really hard to say which manufacturer is going to have the edge. You would say that Nissan have just been, they got quite ahead of the game. They revealed the car very early, and they've obviously been able to test it quite a lot so far, and they'll obviously get more testing miles before the season starts next season. So perhaps that could be a good sign for them, but you certainly wouldn't rule out Honda or indeed Toyota. And I think we are going to see a real proper three-way battle next season. And I think hopefully we're going to see three cars that can compete on all types of track, instead of having Toyota dominating at one track or Honda at this track. Or I think we're going to see a much more even fight next season.
Okay, and personally, who do you have for the championship? Is there a particular team or a manufacturer or driver combination that you're rooting for?
Wow, you're really putting me on the spot there. I have to say that I feel like Honda over the last couple of seasons has had probably on average the best or the most consistent package. So they are starting in the strongest position probably with this new Type S. And one driver movement we're expecting, it's not confirmed yet, but one movement we are expecting is Nobuharu Matsushita going from Nissan to Honda in the real racing number 17 car. It's still very early days, and we haven't even had confirmation of that driver lineup or the car itself. But if those are announced as expected, then I'll stick my neck out and say I think real racing with Kodai Tsukukoshi and Nobuharu Matsushita will be a really strong lineup next season. I think they've got a great chance of going for the title.
Okay, excellent. Well, we look forward to continue watching on Motorsport TV. And Jamie, we will follow you on motorsport.com. Thank you so much for your time, and safe travels back.
Thanks very much.
That was Jamie Klein, Global News Editor for Motorsport.com. Round 1 of the 2022 Super GT season begins April 16th. And you can catch all the action right here live on Motorsport TV. Well, there you have it, our 2021 Super GT year in review. Continue to follow us as we recap the most memorable moments in motorsports from this past year. I'm Juliana Chiovitti, and I'll see you soon.